If God had to make signs to wake up the church, I don't think we could get more of a sign. This is more than any generation that we have seen.
More than any other generation we've seen. Strap yourselves in, Dorothy, because prophecy is coming to America, and in a form where he reckons that this is what America might end up like in 5 or so years' time. And this is from a video with well over 1 million hits, and copies with well over 1 million hits, and an approval rating of about 95%.
We're going to talk about signs. All right, the subject today is sign. We're going to talk about the American solar eclipse. So the sun is a sign, the moon is a sign. How so? Let's take a look at this. Do you realize that a total solar eclipse is only possible on Earth? No other planet that we know, certainly no planet that we're aware of in the solar system, can experience a total solar eclipse.
Really? Is that so? You know, because I'm pretty sure I've seen total solar eclipses on Jupiter. Hell, there are 17 Io eclipses every month on Jupiter. That's over 200 per year. And that's just one of the Jovian moons. You get another 100 total solar eclipses from Europa per year, 50 for Ganymede and a mere 20 for Callista. So that total solar eclipses are only possible on Earth. Not quite true, because on Jupiter they're almost a daily occurrence. You know, happening on average about once per day. Cool, so let's briefly touch on what an eclipse is. Basically, with any planet, it goes around the sun in a plane, and if it's got a moon, that goes around the planet in a plane. And so, at times where those planes intersect, and a little bit either way, is a place where the sun, the moon, and the planet can align. And when that happens, you get an eclipse. So this is actually what the 2017 total solar eclipse would have looked like from space. And all in, it takes about an hour for the moon's shadow to cross the Earth. So you can see, it's hardly a sign of divine judgment or something. It's just a moon going around the Earth and happening to pass in front of the sun. Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all have moons. And the only one of them not to have total solar eclipses is Mars. And even at that, it's marginal.
Do you realize that a total solar eclipse is only possible on Earth?
Yeah, Jupiter gets gazillions of total solar eclipses. Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, not so much, because the orbital plane of the planet and those of the moons have to align. But when they do, they get loads of total solar eclipses. Indeed, with Pluto, I remember this when I was young. Pluto entered this part of its orbit where it started getting these mutual total solar eclipses with Charon. And it was the light curves from that were used to construct a crude map of the surface of Pluto, which at the time couldn't actually be resolved by any telescope. And then later on, of course, we got the Hubble Space Telescope, and later on still the New Horizons probe.
No other planet that we know, certainly no planet that we're aware of in the solar system, can experience a total solar eclipse. Why is that? Because the sun's diameter is 400 times larger than the moon's, but at the same time, the sun also happens to be 400 times farther away than the moon.
Dear God, no. The only thing that is required for a total solar eclipse is that the eclipsing body is angularly larger than the sun, as I will demonstrate here with Io going around Jupiter. This is why almost all the bodies further away from the sun get so many total solar eclipses, because the sun at that distance is so angularly small. But even at this, he fails. If the sun was exactly 400 times further away and 400 times bigger, then the total solar eclipse would only and always last for 0 seconds. The fact that they last between 0 and up to about 8 minutes is primarily because the moon's distance from the Earth varies as it goes around the Earth. Not by a little either, by about 40,000 kilometers. The sort of precision you only get in biblical prophecies. And given the moon's distance is about 400,000 kilometers away, it's about 250,000 miles. That's about the mileage that you could get out of a good car before it kicks the bucket. This means that the moon's size varies by about 10%. And when the moon is closer to the Earth, you get a total solar eclipse. And when it's further away, you get annular solar eclipses.
Now, as I said to you, the Hebrews, every one of their letters means something. Each letter has a Gematria value, and it also has a picture, a concept associated with it. Well, the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Tav. And this letter is associated with the image of a sign. It means a sign. And guess what? Its Gematria value is 400. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, that's a great story. Amazing even. And like you say, you just can't make this stuff up, except, yeah, you totally made this stuff up. The distance between the Earth and the Moon varies by about 10%. So the ratio of the Earth-Sun to Earth-Moon distance varies from about 375 to 408. 375 to 408. Because, like you're saying, it's there in the Bible, the letter Tav, which has a Gematria value of between 375 and 408, because it's not numerology.
A sign includes things in the sky and Gematria, biblical Gematria, not some strange numerology. Now, I bet you nobody here who's a non-Jew would be convinced of that. You'd be like, oh, that's just numerology, especially Christians these days. Christians do not even pay attention to the signs that the Bible is talking about.
Now, it has to be said that the ratio of the diameter of the moon to the diameter of the sun is a pretty good 400. It's there within about 1 part per thousand, that sort of thing. We'll call that biblical precision for the moment. Well, do you know where else the number 400 crops up in the solar system? Uranus is exactly 400% bigger, within the biblical precision that we were talking about earlier, than the Earth.
There is no coincidence with God. It's a God incident.
Uranus. Yeah, where you pulled out all of the source material for your video.
That's a sign. On the 4th day, he made that sign. He gave it a value 400. Unless you knew astronomy 3,000 years ago, why would you say that a sign has the numerical value 400? Because the person who made the Hebrew alphabet made the sun. That's our God. This is why what we're believing, what we're reading, is not something made up. It's not another religious text. It's not another man-made fiction. It's something that is objectively true.
Hell, what's being suggested here is just geometrically impossible. I mean, let's just say it was a perfect 400 at first contact. That means by mid-eclipse, of course, because the Earth is a ball with radius about 6,000 kilometers, it's going to be closer to the Moon. So it basically goes with the ratio of the distance to the Moon, which is basically 400,000 kilometers plus or minus 6,000 kilometers. That's 1%. So much for biblical precision.
Now, we want to come to another sign, something that the Jews would consider a sign in the sky, which is the total solar eclipse that is going to cross the United States mainland on the 21st of August, 2017. We are only days away from this.
Yeah, he's totally going to predict that the moon's shadow is going to destroy things. The shadow. Never mind the fact that there have been over 10,000 solar eclipses that have happened in the last 5 or so thousand years. This is the significant one, I tell you. This is the one God's going to try and use to communicate with us.
What keeps people away from Jesus? They're dishonest. They're dishonest about who they are. They think they're better than other people. They think they're smarter than God. They think God is wrong and they're right.
Well, I'm not sure about God, but I'm certainly a lot smarter than his spokesman. You know, the ones who think that solar eclipses can only happen on Earth.
All right, the Bible says that the sun is a sign. The sun is a sign. There are unique things about the sun, probably more than we can figure out, but we've, I think, touched on one of them. The solar eclipse is a sign. What else might be a sign? Well, here's an interesting thing. What do you think is the temperature of the surface of the sun? Anyone know?
Well, I'm not sure. What units do you want to measure this in? You see, the Bible's a little sketchy on temperature measurements. Not greatly surprising, seeing as the thermometer wasn't invented to some 1,000 or so years after Jesus supposedly died.
Maybe something that the ancients, they're ignorant, they don't know anything, and they paid attention to that. Actually, we find a lot of times they know more than we do. We just forgot what they knew.
Well, most Americans, which you're later going to tell us is the new Babylon, would like the temperature in Fahrenheit. Most everyone else in Celsius. And scientists on their nerdier days would probably go for Kelvin. So why are you interested in the temperature of the sun?
Well, here it is. It says the surface temperature of the sun is 5,778 Kelvin. Now, that's a very interesting number because...
Or 5,505 Celsius or 9,941 Fahrenheit.
The next Hebrew year is 5,778. That's coming 1 or 2 days before the Revelation 12 sign. So 5778 roughly equals our 2018. Is that a coincidence or is that a sign? God loves to play with words and images and numbers, and he can do what he likes. Yeah?
Oh, prophecy. You want the temperature in Kelvin, so you can claim this is all prophecy. Well, firstly, no. According to NASA, the temperature of the surface of the sun is 5772 Kelvin, not 5778, which means your prophecy of the Earth ending should have happened 6 years ago. I mean, you all remember the Earth ending 6 years ago, right? I mean, look, let's just take a big picture look at this. The sun is giving out about twice as much radiation as it did when the Earth first formed. Not only that, the sun is a weakly variable star, so the surface temperature won't be constant in any event. Then, of course, it depends on what you call the surface, how you define it. The sun's got several layers, going from the photosphere, which is about 6,000 Kelvin, to the thin corona, just a few hundred kilometers from the surface, where the temperatures go up to about 1,000,000 Kelvin.
So he said, I'll give you, the evil ones, the sign of Jonah. Now, who was he speaking to? The wicked, the evil, the legalistic, the Pharisees. And so we say, what's the sign of Jonah? Well, Jonah ran away from the call of God, was eaten by a fish, really actually died inside the fish, was resurrected after 3 days, and the fish spat him out.
Seriously, Jonah, the guy who was swallowed by a fish.
No! Or you do what exactly? Hit me with that fish.
Honestly, I think you were doing better with there are no other places in the entire universe that can have total solar eclipses.
There was a sign given to Nineveh called the sign of Jonah. What was that sign? Take a look at it. Today, Nineveh is called Mosul, so there's Mosul right there. And there was a total solar eclipse that crossed the north of Nineveh on the 15th of June, 763 BC, during the reign of King Ashur-dan III. This was one of the omens which led Nineveh to repent wholesale.
So the sign that was given to Nineveh wasn't actually in Nineveh. They didn't have a total solar eclipse. Dude, it's right on the map you're putting in front of all those people. The line of totality misses Nineveh. I mean, what, they not read it or something? Oh wait, I think I might have an explanation for this.
The last letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Tav. Everyone say Tav. Tav. Mazel Tov. Everyone say Mazel Tov. For signs, would you like to say signs? Everyone say sign. Say, what's going on? And the ancients were not so dumb. Dubbed the Bur-Sagal eclipse. It was one of the most famous solar eclipses in ancient history.
Except it didn't turn dark. I'm beginning to think that your God's really not paying attention to the details of these signs.
You know what happened when Jesus was crucified? The sun turned to darkness. The Bible records it.
Yeah, but no one else. Odd that. Hell, the nearest you get is an eclipse happened about 2 years after Jesus supposedly died. And the Bible says it was dark for hours. A neat trick, seeing as the longest total solar eclipse that you can get is about 8 minutes. And the eclipse some 2 years after Jesus supposedly died was only about a minute long.
But don't discount the fact that the sun turned to darkness. Day turned to darkness, which confirmed for those Pharisees who were watching at that time. Didn't he say something about the sign of Jonah? And when Jesus is crucified, the earth quakes, day turns to night.
Yeah, except the only place that says this is the Bible. Odd, you would have thought that earthquakes and the sun going out for 3 hours and the dead coming out of their graves and coming into town for a day trip. Yeah, that's actually in the Bible. You would have thought that that's the sort of thing that some contemporary historians might have thought worthy of note. You know, my long-dead Uncle Bertie came into town today. I said I thought he was dead. And he said, yeah, but, Jesus died, and so now I'm the living dead. He went on to say that this was a really unexpected career change for him, and how heaven had actually been really cool, and that he was very nonplussed to be an undead zombie for the foreseeable future. I mean, as he asked me, how do you die if you're already dead? Oddly, the Bible, after making these remarkable claims about the dead coming back to life and visiting people, oddly something that's not mentioned in any other text of the time, doesn't see fit to say what happened to the undead after this.
Can you see the series of earthquakes that are going on right now? Turkey and Greece, unusual earthquake, a mini tsunami went into the hotels in Turkey. At least 2 people dead in Greece. More to come.
Wow. 2 dead in an earthquake. No zombies yet, but still, 2 dead. I mean, ignore the fact that there are about 1 million people who die in car accidents every year. That's about 3,000 people per day. But sure, 2 dead in an earthquake, that's a sign from God.
The sign of Jonah included at least 5 things. When you trace the history of the reign of Ashur-dan III, you find that there were a series of plagues, civil wars, military loss, a major earthquake, and a total solar eclipse.
What? Look, when most people want to give a sign, they'll settle for a box of chockies and some sweet talk. What sort of a psycho, when he wants to communicate with you, communicates by sending you plagues, wars, and solar eclipses?
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
If you look right now in America, it's almost like there is a civil war that's about to start. The division between people in America is almost 50-50, right down the line. It's never really had that kind of division since 1865, the Civil War.
You mean it's completely unprecedented that America has never been more divided than this? Except, of course, when they were so divided they actually had a civil war. But for some reason, you're not going to call that a sign.
And I think that there's going to be an earthquake and maybe an upset military loss for America as well, and plagues.
What? What? America is in for a plague? Dude, the only plague America is struck with is too many hamburgers. And even at that, life expectancy in America has never been so high. As for a military loss, wow, that's an incredible prediction. I mean, America's only been at war for 93% of the time of its 250-year history. I mean, any other great predictions you got there? You know, the year's going to start in early January, or water's going to be kind of wet, or milk left out of the fridge for too long won't taste as nice. Yeah, Nostradamus, keep making those powerful predictions.
What kind of signs does God give? On the 21st of August 1914, a total solar eclipse crossed Eastern Europe. This was dubbed at that time the World War I eclipse. World War I started 2 months prior to the solar eclipse with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand on the 28th of June 1914.
Boom. There you go. Eclipse. And all of a sudden, World War. Solid argument there, dude. Solid argument. I mean, I can see you're really going somewhere with this one. I mean, all right, you're a bit shaky at the beginning, but now I can see you're really going strong on this one.
And when war started, it started there on the Eastern Europe front. And when it started, 2 months into it, day turned to darkness. If they understood the signs of God, they should have just laid down their arms and said, this is going to be a waste of lives and time and money.
What? Dude, remember, you were just saying that your God was the one who communicates by starting wars.
And when war started, it started there on the Eastern Europe front. And when it started, 2 months into it, day turned to darkness.
Great. So solar eclipses precede world wars. I mean, we got it here. So, of course, there's going to be a solar eclipse, lots of solar eclipses just before World War II, all over Europe, right? You know, the bloodiest war in human history. Well, no. Turns out there weren't any, which kind of blows the crap out of this conspiracy theory.
Now, this is the map of the eclipse path of totality going across the United States, as I mentioned, on August 21st, 2017.
Oh my God, that's terrifying. Just look at the shadow going all the way across America. That's never happened before.
So 1716 UT time, that's universal time. This will overlap the Cascadia subduction zone. And what's interesting about this, two things. First of all, that it starts by crossing an earthquake zone.
Actually, the eclipse starts in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles away from this Cascadia subduction zone. And even at that, basically the whole west coast of America is a fault line. So any eclipse that makes landfall on the west coast of America crosses a subduction zone. Further, what the hell? It's almost impossible for the moon's shadow to go across the Earth without crossing loads of earthquake zones. And in any event, what's the point here? That God is going to communicate by only killing people in earthquake zones, because that's where God can cause earthquakes?
Also, the final Hebrew month, Elul, begins at sundown on which day? Monday, the 21st of August, 2017. What's Elul about? Here it is. Wikipedia says Elul is the 12th month of the Jewish civil new year. It comes from the Akkadian word, they say, that means harvest.
It certainly does. Because you know what? People tend to grow crops in the summertime and then harvest them in autumn time. You know, maybe sort of late August when this eclipse just happened to happen. Yeah, muppet. Yeah, sure, it means the end times and that God's going to come back and harvest people.
So the solar eclipse happens at the 1st of Elul, which means the harvest begins. The word harvest means gathering of crops, ripen crops, a supply of anything gathered at maturity and stored. The verb to harvest means to gather, to reap, to catch, to take, to remove. How interesting.
Oh yeah, that's truly remarkable that an eclipse should happen in autumn. You know, at harvest time.
There appears a marker on the earth, right? At the end of 2017, the Great American Solar Eclipse. So this is going to darken the earth. It's actually going to...
Like this eclipse on the 21st of August, 49 BC. Or this one on the 21st of August, 3 BC. Or this one on the 21st of August, 16 AD. Or this one on the 1st of Elul in the year 491. Or this one on the 1st of Elul, year 576. Or this one on the 1st of Elul, 1650. Or whatever. I think you get the point that there's nothing special about August 21st and eclipses.
kind of mark out a path of maybe this is where God's focus is, America, time to repent or be judged.
Yeah, that's right. America is about to be judged because of the moon's shadow. I mean, sure, all those 10,000 solar eclipses or so that have just been in the last few thousand years, that wasn't God's judgment. But with this solar eclipse, I feel lucky that this is the one that God's going to use to communicate with America.
So the last time that a total solar eclipse crossed the United States was in 1918, June 8th, 1918.
Well, not entirely. There was the annular eclipse of 1994 that crossed the entire United States. There were the total solar eclipses of 1979 and 1970. There were the total solar eclipses of 1959, 1954, and 1945 that all originated in America. Then there was the total solar eclipses of 1934, 1925, and 1923, all of which crossed America, as well as the annular eclipse of 1937 and 1932. But whatever, tell me more about the 1918 eclipse.
So now we want to move towards prophecy / an educated speculation. How do we determine, how do we say what might be coming? Because we want to prepare people. What might be coming? Well, all we have to do is look at history. History is prophecy. What happened in history when there was a total solar eclipse crossing the entire continental United States nearly 100 years ago?
The end of World War One? Is that the sign that you're talking about? Oh, sorry, I forgot. God only communicates by killing people. You know, signs. Go on, tell us more.
Well, if you look in history, you can Google this. 1918, there was a flu pandemic. A pandemic is bad. It's not an epidemic, it's a pandemic. The pandemic of 1918 resulted in a death toll of 675,000 Americans dead. The death toll worldwide was 50 to 100 million. I mean, give or take 50 million. That's how bad it was.
So let me see. If I understand this right, God wants to send a sign that he's going to judge America. So he sent a global pandemic to kill 50 to 100 million people, even though only 1% of the dead would be Americans. You know, the people he's trying to communicate with. Meanwhile, 99% of the casualties would be a splatter fire.
So would you say that's a sign that was given to that generation? To say, boy, there's a lot of wickedness here and repent?
Cool. So I'm sure if we take a look at another plague, say for instance the Black Death, I'm sure you'll find that was accompanied by a solar eclipse too. Actually, no. That was just 1/3 of the population of Europe dead without an eclipse. Good thing too. I would hate to see how bad it would have been if God had tried to communicate with these people by sending them a sign at the same time.
Repent or reap what you sow. God doesn't go around killing people. We don't believe that. But God would only need to remove his presence for evil to come into your life.
I'm really not so sure I would call influenza evil. It's a virus. Sure, it kills you, but it's not like it sat there conspiring to do it. You know, oh, if only God will remove his presence, then I can go and kill women and children. Well, God's just sitting there saying, well, yeah, I think I'm going to remove my presence till 50 to 100 million are dead, you know, because that'll teach him not to do what I want.
That's what we're doing to God. We kick him out of school. We say you can't even teach the Bible in school. You can see the demonic influence in that.
Not teaching the Bible is demonic. Dude, I'm glad that you're talking crap, because if your God really was real, and this is how he communicated, how could you distinguish him from the devil?
The death toll worldwide was 50 to 100 million. I mean, give or take 50 million. God doesn't go around killing people. We don't believe that. But God would only need to remove his presence for evil to come into your life.
Yeah, don't do what I want and I'll let 50 million die just to teach you a lesson. That sounds pretty evil to me.
Why would you single out a book and say that's not allowed? But of course you can glorify Islam You can talk positively about the Quran.
What planet are you on? The one that doesn't have any solar eclipses or something? Islam is pretty much synonymous with evil in America. And you'll be doing very well to find anyone who will defend it because it's got so much messed up stuff in it. Not that that should be much of a surprise. You basically both worship the same God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
But I want to show you something else that might be a clue. If you look at the path of totality of the eclipse, and then you look at this earthquake hazard map, which is put out by the USGS. This is FEMA's projected earthquake damage zones. The red would be the worst. Yellowstone's there, New Madrid's there, and the sun marks it out. On the 21st of August, the sun says, we're crossing all of those earthquake zones.
Yeah, you got a pretty good eye of faith there, dude. Because it looks to me like it's just a line going across America. So let's see. It misses all of Alaska, all of Hawaii, goes through the lowest earthquake damage zone on the west coast, then clips the New Madrid place before going out and missing Puerto Rico completely. Yeah, if only shadows cause earthquakes, we would be completely screwed. Yeah, really do. You've never looked at an eclipse prediction map, have you? Or a historical one for that matter. You know how hard it is for an eclipse not to pass an earthquake zone.
And by the way, this is also partially scientific because a lot of the geologists, they never can predict earthquakes because they look down. God always says, look up. There are now scientists who are looking up at solar activity, sunspots, coronal hole mass ejections, these things. And then they make predictions of earthquakes, and so far they've been doing it better than people who look down.
Enough, God damn it! Okay, not quite yet. But if you want to know just how dumb what this guy said was, you're going to have to tune into the next episode of Why Do People Laugh at Creationists, because believe it or not, I'm only about halfway through this guy's talk, which I should remind you had over 1 million hits and a 95% positive rating, which kind of echoes what I saw when I drove around America this summer. Some 8,000 miles. America's prime problem is not the regressive left with people like Sarkeesian. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that addressing those people isn't fabulously entertaining. And sure, when she was in front of the United Nations, necessary. But now she pulls in a few thousand hits per video, and in some cases less than 1,000, which means that less than 0.5% of her subscribers actually watch her stuff, and most of those are probably just watching it for the lulz. And she's the monsterfish, the giant of the social justice warrior community. Meanwhile, this is the religious right, who can field a video with over 1 million hits, multiple videos like this, with huge approval ratings, who want this sort of stuff taught in schools, to kids, to the next generation. And yet, while in America, I saw several people like this echoing this bullshit.
I mean, this 400 thing is just crazy. I mean,
the fact that we get any eclipse at all totally disproves evolution.
every moon in the solar system, with the exception of those on Mars, causes eclipses.
Nope, that's not true.
Absolutely, it's true. I watched them. I video them.
They all call
all of them.
Not all of them, but yeah. I mean, no, the eclipses on Jupiter, they're like a couple of night.
Yeah, towers.
No. They have potato moons. They're only partial. They're terrible. The point is
they're total eclipses. They're total eclipses. All you need
is a potato moon.
No, all the ones, all the four big ones.
Galilean.
Yeah, Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto,
the point
Titan,
is, this is the only place in the universe
Triton.
that you can live and study the universe.
Well, this is the only
it's
place.
a miracle. I'm saying
this is the only place
Jesus
with
Christ.
life. So it's all a tautology that this is the only place. Right?
I guess what I'm saying is this is not some niche drama for clicks type bullshit. This is the roughly 40% of Americans who think that Jesus will return in the next 40 or so years. And if you like media like this and want to support it, you'll find the links to Patreon below.